Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. Welcome to MFSN, the Hub's fantasy football strategy show, every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. I'm Dr. Dan Ratner, and I'm here as always with Kasey, Vlad to the Bone, Scheinvold, and Ross the Boss.
Hey, everybody. Ross the Boss here, straight from La La City, Los Angeles, California. If you don't know what I'm talking about with La La City, week 18. I never thought I would say that. I can't believe it's already 2024. Happy New Year, everybody. How was your New Year, Dr. Dan Renner? You were in the beautiful confines of Mexico.
Yes, it didn't feel confining at all. It was fantastic. And meanwhile, I mean, I just want to know, your setup right now, it looks like you're in an Apollo mission. You're like floating in space because you're also wearing the like orange astronaut suit.
I'm wearing the Bengals
We're going to call him John
jacket
Glenn
because we play your hometown team. I'm saying it's your team. It's just your hometown.
Listen, I mean, I'm
not making you upset. It's not a trigger here. We're playing the playoff-bound Browns. It's kind of weird that the Browns made the playoffs, and you decided at the beginning of the year that they're no longer my team, and they make the playoffs.
There's correlation. And then I put the Bills shirt behind me, and look what happened. Meanwhile, Ross
have to win on Sunday to go.
I don't know. You probably don't remember this game because it was after your time.
I can't see it, but
this is called Tecmo Bowl.
I know exactly what Tecmo Bowl. I have. It's
a New York Giants player. It's a New York Giants player. So do you know who that New York Giants player would be?
No, Kasey and I have no. We can't see it.
I know exactly who it is. It's Lawrence Taylor.
Lawrence Taylor, yeah, 56. I saw it. Yeah,
he's the greatest
player in Tecmo Bowl.
Maybe in any
one of the greatest linebackers in NFL history, and probably the greatest cocaine addiction in NFL history.
He is the greatest linebacker in NFL history. It's not even close.
Yeah, him and Hollywood Henderson had the best cocaine stories I've ever heard in my life.
All right, so let's talk about headlines. First, we're going to talk about headlines in the NFL. Obviously, from a fantasy perspective, you wouldn't think there's much to talk about, but there always is because we got an offseason. You got keeper leagues. You got dynasty leagues. We also are looking ahead to next year about the draft. So we're going to get to all of that. But first, let's just talk about what's happening in the NFL. I did actually watch the Browns clinch. It is the first full Browns game I've watched.
And tell us where you watched it at. Tell us the story behind it, please.
I was in Mexico with one of my best friends from high school who I watched the Cavs win the championship with. It was just me and him. So we're a pretty good luck charm. And I'm watching and I'm like, wow, this is just me, but I'm thinking Joe Flacco should be our quarterback for the next 3 years.
He'll be 39. It'll be 39 this month.
Yeah.
And you say a 42-year-old quarterback should be quarterbacking your team 3 years from now.
Listen, I'm not saying that it's that we shouldn't reevaluate as things go. If things change, fine. But the way he looked.
Well, yeah. See, and I mean, don't get me wrong. The Browns are winning, and he's looked better than whoever else you put out there in the first 12 games of the season. But he does have nine turnovers in 5 games as a starter, including 2 pick sixes. So there's a lot of warts that Cleveland's defense is able to hide.
Well, listen, I had to get used to a lot of things. I had to get used to seeing the Browns actually tackle someone. I hadn't seen it in probably 20 years. Meanwhile, Chris Atwater's with us, and he says Michael Irvin was pretty good at cocaine also. So that's, it's a good perspective on
Michael Irvin never did it during a game. He never kept it in his sock during the Super Bowl and stored cocaine on the field. Michael Irvin never did that. Hollywood Henderson did that. He talks about it in his book.
Admitted to it.
Everyone's seen the footage.
Hollywood wrote about it.
Everyone's seen the footage of Lawrence Taylor saying, "Let's go out there like a bunch of crazed dogs." We know something was going on there, but he was an animal, literally.
Unbelievable.
So now let's talk about other headlines. The Browns are in the playoffs for the first time. By the way, Kevin Stefanski is the second Browns coach of all time to have 11 or more wins in 2 seasons. Marty Schottenheimer should have gotten there, but he didn't because there was a strike-shortened season.
Right.
The other is Paul Brown.
Right. We talked about Kasey and I decided we talked about Coach of the Year candidates, and Kevin was my number one just because he has a 4th-string quarterback winning him games. I mean, this guy literally was on the couch.
Running back, either starting tackle.
Exactly. And this guy was on the couch. I mean, it's not like a made up. He was on the couch. He got up and he decided to throw some passes to his dad and his brother. That was his practice team. And all of a sudden in November he was in the NFL. I
think I'm ready.
I mean, it's a great story. And Kasey likes Dave Campbell or Dan Campbell.
I like
Dan Campbell. Yeah. and you like D'Amico Ryan. So I love those guys too, but I just think the guy from the Cleveland's coach was just hands down the coach of the year to me.
I mean, given what they went through, it has been pretty amazing. Okay, Chris Atwater says Flacco has been great. Nervous about resting him. He has clicked in. I think the thing about Flacco is he's got to be so relaxed. He's a 38-year-old quarterback. He's already won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's just nothing to lose. And everybody loves him. So he's just eating it up. I'm not worried about resting him too much. But it is going to be interesting to see what the Browns do. We're going to get to picks shortly. What are the other main headlines that you felt coming out of this week, NFL-wise? I mean, the Eagles losing.
Loved it.
The Cowboys are going to win that division now.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles were the losers of the week.
Well, no, let's not say that. The Eagles only have the Giants this week. So if they win that, I think it's still theirs. I think another big story, I mean, the Ravens dismantling Miami.
Just destroying them.
Coming on the heels of them dismantling San Francisco at San Francisco. So, I mean, clearly they are the class of the AFC right now. And Lamar Jackson is a shoo-in for MVP unless for some reason his arm falls off or his legs fall off this weekend.
He could still win it anyway for the MVP award.
He's winning the MVP award no matter what. He's not playing this week, guys. And in Vegas, it's like it's 20,000. It's like you got to bet like $200 to win $1, basically, for him to win the MVP. I mean, that's how Vegas feels about it. So you can give him the award. It's his second time winning the award and well deserved. I mean, he really showed against the big team who's the boss, and he's the boss of those teams. I mean, unbelievable year for him, Lamar Jackson. Congratulations.
One other big thing out of this weekend, obviously, if anybody watched, and we talked about it briefly on Tuesday, the Detroit-Dallas game, and the referees completely crapping the bed at the end of that game. And then the NFL coming out and saying they won't do any playoff games. That crew is no longer going to be in the postseason. But then they give them the Ravens-Steelers game this weekend, which is a nationally televised game. So that's just wild. Like,
I mean, I don't understand why they can't fix this problem. It should have just been reviewable. Just make it reviewable. I mean,
it's not that it wasn't reviewable. It's that the refs are saying they never reported. You can't review whether or not that guy reported as eligible, even though there's a video of him walking over to the ref when he came onto the field.
Well, but shouldn't the video be reviewable? He walked right over.
Yeah, but you could have said F you. You don't know what happened. You have no idea.
I saw your wife. She looked
sure, but if they ask the ref, this guy walked over to you, what did he say to you? I mean, what's he going to say?
Yeah,
it's like,
I don't know.
I mean,
again,
the evidence was
and you and I work in mental health. We know how defensive people can be, even when confronted with the painful, obvious truth.
Sometimes even more so.
Right. So,
but I that it's a good point, Kasey, about bringing that up, because really, in many ways, it was the biggest story. I mean, the Lions lost a really big game, and
they lost the potential bye in the first round because of it.
Yeah. And you hate to see it with a team like the Lions finally winning that division and looking good. It's
now, in fairness to the Cowboys, anybody who watched that game, other than the last 2 minutes of that game, the Cowboys pretty much were the dominant team out there. So they were the better team on the day, but it doesn't matter when all of a sudden it's taken away like that.
You guys will appreciate this as fantasy football fans. So I was in my finals in one of the dynasty leagues. And I'm going against CeeDee Lamb. I walk in. I didn't go into the start of the game. The first play I walked in on, which one would you think it would be?
92-yard touchdown. And you start crying.
I had CeeDee Lamb. I had CeeDee Lamb in the finals and won, and I won that one. And in the third place game in the other dynasty league, and I beat Ben with CeeDee Lamb pretty much.
I think CeeDee Lamb's the number one receiver taken next season. How about that?
That's an interesting question for next year, because obviously the three best receivers on the season, in my opinion, were CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Mm-hmm. I mean, Puka Nacua was great. I don't think he was top three. He was certainly the beat expectations the most. But it's not like Jefferson and Jamar Chase got worse. Jefferson was hurt for 4 weeks and had to deal with like 4 different quarterbacks. Jamar Chase had the least efficient Joe Burrow that's ever walked the face of the earth. And so do you really not, if Kirk Cousins is back, is suddenly Justin Jefferson not the number one pick anymore? Like, he's a steal at number 3.
Yeah. No, I mean, the thing is, in many ways, it's a toss-up with any of these guys. They're all fantastic. I mean, who would not want Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, any
Justin
of these guys,
Jefferson
or Justin Jefferson.
Like-
You could even potentially argue AJ Brown, but given his low touchdown total, I can't see anybody taking him first.
Yeah.
You could put Amon Ra in there too. He's been that good.
Yeah, but not for number one. I mean,
No,
those
not
three
one
guys
overall. But if you get any one of those, we just named 5 receivers. If you get any one of those, you feel like you have an alpha and your team is going to be okay.
Well, and I would expect all 5 of those guys will go in the first round. Will Puka go in the first round?
No, I think AJ Brown will.
AJ Brown will, yeah.
Yeah. But I don't see Puka going in the first round because as long as Cooper Kupp is still on the team, you're always going to be a little nervous about volume.
All right, so while we're at it, let's assume like a 12-team league, and let's say not super flex. Who are the top 12 picks? Who goes in the first round? I think those 5 receivers do. I don't think any other receiver does.
No, I don't think so either.
But it's close because you could take Amon-Ra or you could take Puka at the end. But the question is who else is going to be in that top 12?
Well, I think yes, he's getting older, but McCaffrey, if it's not a super flex, I still think McCaffrey is.
Yeah, McCaffrey's the number 1 pick next year, no matter what.
He's going to be 1 or 2.
He
scored 21 touchdowns.
I mean, all he does is score. This guy's a freak.
He had 2,000 yards total.
He'll be the number 1 pick next year.
I think Kyron Williams has made himself a first-round pick this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll be middle to back end. What other running backs? Okay, Chris Atwater is commenting on this. He says Achane will be top 12 in that format. Do you agree?
If he's the lead back, I mean, what he's done in that, because he could be McCaffrey, right? Because, what do they run in Miami but a version of San Francisco's offense?
Well, in any running back, I mean, Mostert scored 18 touchdowns this season.
Right, but
he's not going to be there.
Right, and I equate him to Jamal Williams last year in Detroit. Kind of that.
I mean, I'm going to say somebody who's been hurt all year. I think Chubb's going to have a good year when he comes back next year.
See, I don't think he'll be a first-round pick, though, because
I agree with you both. I agree with you both. I think Chubb's going to be great next year, but he won't be a first-round pick. So
I think Jahmyr Gibbs could be a first-round pick. The way he came on at the end of this season and what they highlighted with what they can do with him going forward.
I also think Breece Hall could.
And I think Breece Hall, as much as we don't like,
I'm never taking in the first round ever. First rule, boss, never. No way.
Breece Hall is just a different.
You want to look at his stats? You want to look at his stats and what he did?
Sure, I'm happy to look at his
in
stats.
the middle of the season. I mean, he was invisible. I mean, he didn't do anything. Wow. He was averaging under 3 yards a carry at one time.
The guy had 1,400 yards of total offense and 8 touchdowns.
Since week 5, he's averaged 16.5 fantasy points a game.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'm not taking Tony Pollard is not being drafted by me.
No, Tony Pollard's on the all
Austin Eckler is not being drafted by me. Shaquan Barkley is not being drafted by me. He won't be a Giant next year, like you said.
No,
I'm not taking no Patriots. I'm not taking any of those guys ever.
The only other one who could sneak in would be maybe Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, but I would. So I like Gibbs and Breece Hall better than Bijan Robinson.
Oh, so do I. I'm saying he could sneak in because it's not like Alvin Kamara is a first-round pick anymore, even though he was awesome this year.
No, I mean, one thing you have to remember, if you're picking, there's only 12 picks in the first round in a 12-team league. So you got to really think, we got those 5 receivers.
Who are these people?
Who are these people? We got those 5 receivers.
You have 6 receivers in the first round.
Okay. I see that. I buy that.
With AJ Brown being the 6th, if
I had AJ Brown as the 5th. So who are you thinking of? Amon-Ra?
I have Hill, Lamb, Jefferson, Chase.
Oh, I left out Jefferson. I'm sorry.
Amon-Ra and AJ Brown.
Okay,
and
so
then
was in there.
Running backs, I'd put McCaffrey, obviously. I'd put Kyron Williams in there. I'd put Breece Hall in there. I'd put Jahmyr Gibbs.
I would put Gibbs.
I have a question for you guys. You ready?
And then I'd put Devon Achane.
What do you do? Let's say Marvin Harrison Jr. comes out and he's drafted and he's on a pretty good team. I don't know which one, but let's say he's a good quarterback.
You mean
second
what round
pick? He's a second-round pick.
Second-round pick, okay.
Okay, but I think the person who's taking him in the second round is kind of reaching a little bit. Rookies, they start off slow, no matter how good they are.
This guy,
he's a different breed, but I would love to get him in the third.
But I mean, okay, so if you're choosing between, I don't know, him or Puka Nacua, or him or Nico Collins, because those are that's that next tier of
Yep,
wide
good
receivers.
ones.
Maybe Stephon Diggs and Deebo Samuel, that kind of thing. If Diggs ends up in Kansas City, which I could see because I think he's out of Buffalo, I think everybody
I
agrees
definitely think he's going, unless Buffalo wins the Super Bowl this year. But
right.
I
If he ends up in
Then he's
Kansas
definitely
City
gone.
and he's Patrick Mahomes is number one, I think he could be a first round pick then.
Yeah, but he won't
You heard
be
it here
a first
first,
round
Kasey
pick. That's the thing.
Scheinfeld.
He'll be a first round. He could be a first round value, but there's no one who's going to take Diggs in the first. I don't think, even if he's in Kansas City, just because he didn't look that good this year, and people
I don't
have
trust
questions
him.
about his attitude.
Yeah.
Well,
What about Travis Etienne? First round pick?
No, he's right in the top of the second though for me. He's probably right there with Bijan Robinson for me in the second round.
He's in the same tier with Bijan and James Conner too.
I put him. Okay, he may be in the same tier as them, but I think he's way ahead of both of them. Just that's me. Chris Atwater says definitely not getting Harrison Jr. in the third round, so Chris is taking him in the second. Clearly, no. I mean, I think it is unlikely that you get him in the third round. I'm just saying, I'm probably not going to be the guy to take him in the second round because I do think it's a bit of a reach and there is some risk. In the early rounds of the draft, I'm trying not to lose it, because you can lose it on a. I don't even remember his name. Steve Slayton. Steve Slayton pick. That lost me a draft. Ross loves that story.
But to
He
get
was
that,
good.
I have to defend my Terp here real quick with Stephon Diggs. You said his numbers were down through like week 5 or 6. He was wide receiver 3 on the season or wide receiver 4. They fired their offensive coordinator and started using the tight end and the running back more. That's why James Cook was awesome the second half of the season. And you saw his numbers go down. I don't think he was playing any worse. His volume was
I agree with you. I'm just talking optics. I totally agree with you. But from an optics perspective, I don't expect him to go in the first round because there's only 12 picks. Are there any tight ends that are going to go in the first round next year?
No.
First round, no. But Kasey and I both love Sam Laporta, and we
I think
feel
he's
he'll
the
probably
top
go in
tight end next year.
We think his top tight end, probably second, maybe late second, early third round guy.
Third, probably.
Kelsey's dropping like a rock next year, guys.
Where will he go?
Fourth round,
which means Atwater would take him in the third round.
Somewhere in picks 40 through 48, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. If he's still dating Taylor Swift, he may go down a little bit further. It just depends. If he breaks up with her, I think I'll have a better year. I think I think it was a distraction. He's dropping balls, guys. Like I never seen him drop before. In all seriousness, I mean, I watched him play, and he's not the same player that he was last year. He's not. I don't know if it's age or if he's just like he's chasing this girl around the world, which he is. And it shows. I mean, it shows that he's not. I don't think he goes to practice. That's my philosophy.
I mean, it isn't. I personally like Taylor Swift a lot because my girls.
It's nothing. It's not a thing on Taylor Swift.
I agree.
It's a thing on your mindset during the season.
No,
if you're out chasing women during the season, it's going to affect your gameplay.
No, Ross, I think you're totally right about it. He seems distracted.
If you honestly don't think a lot of professional athletes are chasing women throughout the season, just because he chased a celebrity made it more apparent to everybody. I don't know if it was necessarily that. I think he's getting older. He's lost a step.
Okay. Going to Argentina during the season.
I think the attention
going to Argentina
got.
Going to Argentina during the season is a regular thing for football players. You're telling me that. It's not, Kasey.
Do you want me to show you the picture of the Giants on a party boat in Miami the week before their playoff game?
It's in Miami. It's not in Argentina. There's a huge difference.
But their playoff game was in Green Bay.
I mean, here's the other thing. Like, is there any relationship that is more under the microscope than theirs? So, like, I do think Kelsey has been really, really distracted. Meanwhile, what's going on with Mahomes? Like, we know he lost it with the refs the other day. He seems
I think he's just frustrated because he has nobody to throw the ball to.
And he has the most drop passes in like NFL history. It's like crazy stats with him in drop passes. I feel bad for the kid.
All right, now here's a value at tight end being talked about. I like Michael Mayer in a later round. Very funny, Ross the Boss. I would never draft Kelsey. He is old now. Actually, Chris is pretty notorious for taking almost all young players. So I don't see him taking Kelsey.
But Mayer was not SEC. He's Notre Dame. Why would he take
He's Notre Dame, yep. And he's also Friday the 13th,
Chris likes
right?
good players. That's Michael Mayer. But,
close enough, yeah.
It's close enough. And, of course, there's Mike
Well,
Mayer.
the interesting thing is where is somebody like Brent Bowers, the Georgia tight end who's coming out this year that they're saying could be a top 15 pick. Where does he fall in the draft if he ends up in a good position? because, the belief was rookie tight ends are terrible, but over the last
Until
2 or
this year.
3 years, Kyle Pitts had a great rookie year. He's been terrible since. But you had Laporta have a really good year. Musgrave, Dalton Kincaid, Mayer, they've all had good years this year. I think Bowers could shock and get drafted up high. Hawkinson, to me, would have been that 1 or 2 tight end, but the knee injury he suffered last week or whatever it was means he's not going to be ready probably for the start of the season.
Probably not until October. Yeah.
He's great value to get late in the draft. Because
he is, but I mean, if you look at the tight end position, Laporta is really the only one who's got that clear top value to me. And he's not at the level that like Kasey was coming into this year in terms of expectations. Kasey was a whole other beast.
Yeah.
But there are guys like Kittle, Hawkinson.
I love
back
Kittle.
From injury.
Yeah.
I think Kittle's the best all-around tight end, including
he blocks.
blocking in that. Yeah, he's a great blocker. He catches the ball. And he's a great
Evan
offense.
Ingram had a good year quietly for Jacksonville, and
David Njoku looked.
David
great.
Njoku. Joe Flacco loves him, so that helps.
100 yards a game. I mean, that's all the guy does. I mean, it's
watching that, I have to tell you, watching that Browns Jets game, watching the Jets was like watching the Browns. Like I was watching another team do all the wrong things.
Imitate your old team.
I was like, I've seen this before, but I never noticed it in any other team because the Browns were so busy doing it themselves. So, all right, there's no tight ends in that top 12. We got probably 6 wide receivers. It's going to be all wide receivers and running backs. It seems.
Yeah,
right.
In a quarterback league, I could go 6 and 6 or 7 if you think like Nico Collins is the real deal.
Kasey, who's your number 1 quarterback drafting next year?
Josh Allen.
Yeah.
What about you, Ross?
I mean, I'm going to wait, but I would like to get CJ Stroud late. I think quarterback position, there's like 10 of them that are all, especially like Joe Burrow, whose stock went down because he's hurt. I mean, there's a lot of great value in quarterbacks.
Yeah, but you look at like the 16 or 18 rushing touchdowns that Allen and
you're right, Hurts
had,
and I'm not disagreeing.
That's a separator to me. So
I'm not. Listen,
but where do you take them in a single quarterback league? Where do you take them?
Probably
12-team.
4th round, 3rd, 4th round. If I want one of those 2, it has to be 3rd or 4th round.
Yeah, Hurts
but I'm
or
also
Allen.
like, I don't disagree with you. I think if you wait and grab a different quarterback later on, like, because there is a lot of value. You're right. Jordan Love was awesome the start of the season, sucked in the middle third of the season, and then the very end
turned it on.
He turned it on. He ended up a top 6 or 7 quarterback. So you can get Justin Fields because of his year this year, or Jordan Love, or some of those guys late. I would probably rather stack my wide receivers in those first 4 or 5
There
rounds.
you go. Now you're thinking.
And avoid taking a quarterback.
100%. Because I mean, there are at least 12 quarterbacks that you could argue are a coin flip.
But listen, guys, if I can get Mahomes late, I'll do it. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, you look at who lost value this year: Joe Burrow, Mahomes, Trevor
Kelce,
Lawrence, Justin Herbert. Like, these are some quarterbacks who were top 5 considered or top 7 considered last year, and now they're not even like considered in the early part of the draft. So
okay, so let's switch gears. Let's say you're doing a super flex league. Now I want your top 12 picks. Obviously, it's very different because
quarterback. I mean, you're just taking quarterbacks. I mean,
well, are you?
Maybe a sprinkle of CMC, maybe a sprinkle of CeeDee Lamb, but
I mean, those guys are still probably going to go in the first round, I would guess.
First or 2 rounds, yeah. But usually people like to take quarterbacks as their first and second pick in super.
Yeah.
In super leagues.
Well, and almost everybody's going to take at least one quarterback with one of their first 2 picks, if not 2. So is Josh Allen the clear number 1 there?
No, I mean,
Kasey thing. I think he is. I would take him first overall in a super flex. But I wouldn't argue somebody who wanted Jalen Hurts.
But I think it's got to be one of those 2 because of the rushing touchdowns.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But I think you'd see 8 quarterbacks go in the first round.
All right, and who are they? Josh Allen, Jalen
Hurts. I think you'd still see Mahomes and Burrow.
Yep.
You might see Justin Fields because he finished really strong to the year, especially
CJ Stroud,
Marvin Harrison.
I mean, Lamar
Jackson
has
Lamar Jackson,
Brock Montana.
Yeah. So I mean, after that, Justin Herbert, you could consider
Dak Prescott.
Dak Prescott was awesome this year. I don't trust
I'm
him.
not a fan, but you got to draft
I
him in
don't
the
trust
first
him,
couple
but
rounds.
he's gonna.
But
go
I
in the
think
first
if
round.
I'm picking in that 8 to 10 range and he's there, I'm going to consider it in a super flex. There's just a lot of choice, but that's it's so murky after the top 2 or 3. 4 through 10 are just who you like. Not.
I'm excited, guys, about the college guys that are quarterbacks coming into the draft next year. I mean, there's a lot of talent coming in.
Yeah,
like the Bo Nixes and Caleb Williams, and even like
you got Michael Penix, you got
Michael Penix,
Drake May, you got Jaden Daniels, you got.
I mean, there's a lot of talent there, and out of those guys, who do you think is going to be starting quarterback on a Sunday?
The first year?
Yeah.
I mean, so much of it depends on which team drafts them.
Well, see, here's the thing. Considering we had like 17 teams need to use at least 2 quarterbacks this year because of injuries, I think all of the guys we listed are going to at some point take a snap.
Yep. Okay, Party Marty's with us. He says, watch out for the Dolphins in the playoffs.
He clearly didn't watch football on Sunday.
Yeah, no, the Dolphins are limping into the playoffs.
What happened? And Tyreek Hill's house burned down yesterday.
I saw that.
I didn't see this.
A child started the fire with matches. That's what they're saying. Big fire in Florida. Big fire.
That is terrible news. Wow. I didn't even hear about that. But that's obviously, I would say that's going to put him in a bad headspace. But I feel like a guy like Tyreek Hill is going to be.
He plays angry anyway.
Right. Exactly.
I'm sure he had insurance. I'm sure he's okay. I mean, the problem is, I hope he didn't lose any of his stuff you can't replace. That's the bad thing.
Absolutely. Okay, Chris Atwater says, not seeing the QB talent you guys are. Think it is a very weak class for the position. Interesting. It's been argued as a very strong one.
Kasey just named 4 or 5 people.
I don't think it's as I think Caleb Williams was last year considered to be the next Patrick Mahomes. He struggled a little bit this year, but it's not like he got worse.
He didn't, but he's a head case, guys. I know people that are in the NFL that work for the NFL and stuff, and they have nothing nice to say about him.
I think this class has a lot of depth, but it might not have the same level of elite when you get the Burrows and that crowd. I think, but I mean, like in the second round, if your team can draft Bo Nix or Michael Penix, these 24-year-old guys, even if they have to wait for a year and learn the position, they've certainly shown that they can succeed throwing the football. But no, I mean, there's a ton of talent, but it's a question of, are they in the right environment? Because you look at somebody like Zach Wilson coming out of BYU, everybody thought, wow, this kid's one of the most talented.
Wow, look at his mom. I get it. Yeah.
But you put him in the wrong situation and it's a disaster.
Well, you guys have to remember too that Russell Wilson will not be a Bronco next year. He won't be playing there, and he'll be starting on another team on Sunday next year. So that's another team that's going to get a quarterback starting fresh.
Who's your pick? Who's he going to?
If I was a team looking for a guy like that, like a guy's been around, he can help younger players and everything else. Oh God, I would probably say New England.
See, I'm not a huge Russell Wilson fan, but I think it's somebody like the Commanders.
I could see that. I also could. I mean, it depends on what happens with Kirk Cousins, because I think the Vikings could bring him in.
Yeah, that's true.
They'll probably bring back Cousins, but if they don't, they're going to want a backup.
Cousins has had to love watching the Vikings the last 5 weeks because he's on the last year of his deal, and he's like, "Oh, they need me.
Look at what
now
you're like without me."
Know me.
Yeah, and that's right. I told you guys about that quarterback show on Netflix that they show us like behind the scenes,
Mahomes and him and somebody else,
Marcus Mariota, and he looks like the greatest guy. He looks like if Dan Ratner was a football player, that's what Dan would be.
I love that, Ross. Thank you. You made my day. Party Marty then says they will beat Buffalo Sunday, though. Let's go. We'll see.
They won't.
I don't see it happening.
No, they won't. They won't. It's a must game for Buffalo.
The forecast is in Buffalo for this weekend, but
I think it's in Miami. I think the game in Miami. The game's in Miami. Case. It's in Miami.
Oh, okay. Well, that's better because
it's in Miami. It doesn't matter.
In the Northeast this weekend.
Buffalo plays every week like it's like a playoff game now. I mean, they're really trying to win every game, and I think the wind really knocked the heck out of Miami last week. It was a horrible loss for them.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right.
Waddle's hurt. Hill has the thing with this. I mean, they're all bumped up in Miami. They're not going to win.
They're just in rough shape. Their coach has done a great job, by the way. Because they faded, I don't think he can win Coach of the Year, but he's done a great job. All right, let's talk dynasty. We were just talking about these quarterbacks. How many of these quarterbacks are going to go in round 1 of a dynasty?
In a dynasty draft?
Yes.
Okay, not
in 12 or 14 team. How many teams are we talking about here?
Let's say 12.
12 super flex? Or
12
not?
super flex. Yes, super flex.
Well, 5.
Then all
5
of them.
will. Yeah.
I think Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, you'll get
and where's the last
you might even
one
get
going to go?
6. You might get Michael Penix, you'll get Bo Nix, you might get JJ McCarthy.
Is he coming out? Is he
I thought he was, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, he is.
I'll check.
I don't know if Shadur Sanders is coming out. He could go.
No, why would you? Let me ask you guys a question. If you were in college and you're the big man on campus, you're driving a Rolls Royce, your dad's the coach, and you're a junior. I mean, and you wear a watch that's worth $1 million, and you're making $10 million next year on NIL. Would you come out? I wouldn't come out.
I wouldn't either. No.
I mean, I would stay in college and chase skirts and party.
But this is a kid who's had money his whole life, so it doesn't mean
not this kind of Casey. $10 million. I mean, his dad's not giving him $1 million. I know, but his dad's not giving him money.
Celebrity since he was born.
As much as you love your kids, you're not giving them that kind of money to run around and have fun.
No, not to run around, but it's not like this is a kid who ate ramen.
No, not at all. No, he's not needed.
And was a latchkey kid, and he finally has money. We're talking about.
I think it's a chance of a lifetime.
Because if that's your argument, why is Marvin Harrison Jr. coming out?
He might not come out. Has he announced that he's coming out for sure yet?
I don't think he has announced it for sure.
That's another guy that's making $10 million NIL.
But it's another guy who grew up with a dad who made it.
It's true, but I do think that there's a drive that some guys have to get to the NFL and play in the NFL, and some of them don't want to wait. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. grew up with his dad in the NFL. I think he wants to be in the NFL. I think he's ready, and I think he will. But I agree with you in principle, Ross. So back to dynasty drafts. Where will Marvin Harrison Jr. go?
First round.
Is he going to be the number 1 pick? Okay, you think it'll be the second pick?
In a super flex, I don't think he's in the number 1. I think
because I think he might still be.
If it's Chris Atwater will probably take him either first or second pick.
Atwater's taking Jaden Daniels number 1 because it's an SEC quarterback.
And plus he went to Arizona State and he transferred out to go to LSU. I get it.
There you go.
He went from a crappy team to a good team.
There's no argument here.
We're diverting back to the Dolphins for a second. Is Waddle playing this week? Do you guys have
50-50? 50-50. Kasey, do the Waddle for me, please.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if he practiced today or not. I'd have to look.
I don't know, but it doesn't matter. The Bills are going to win that game.
Well, what do you guys think about? Well, we're going to get back to dynasty and stuff, but what do you guys think about Waddle going into next year? I mean, he was a disappointment this year. There were certain players like him. Where would you draft him? 12-team, not super flex.
5th, 6th round.
He would probably be somewhere around wide receiver 18 to 20.
Yeah,
I mean,
22.
Somebody could step up and take him in the 4th round. If you can get him in the 5th, I think that's great. All right, back to dynasty. So Marvin Harrison Jr., I would consider taking him number 1 because
I would also, but if it's an established if it's an established league and it's dynasty, chances are the guy who's picking first is picking first because he doesn't have quarterbacks. Right. So that's just you got to start trying to get quarterbacks that way. Honestly, if I had, if
I had the number 1 pick and
I wanted a quarterback, I'm trading down.
I would trade down. Exactly. Cause like you just don't know which one of these guys is going to hit necessarily. So I don't want to put all my value there. I would trade down. Whereas if you don't need a quarterback, I think you take Marvin Harrison Jr. for sure, because he's the clear guy who's going to get it done. Okay. Chris Atwater says, first off, ramen tastes good.
It does.
It does.
I do love ramen.
At least 2 out of 3 of us like it. Ross.
Of course,
I love ramen.
In my little rant,
3 out of 3.
I'm talking about the bag with the hard noodles that you boil for 3 minutes and then put some powder in. Not like going to a really good Korean restaurant and just eating delicious.
I gotta say, even that ramen is good. to me.
I know.
I like it really spicy though. There's a place down the street that has Vietnamese.
Oh yes,
ramen. It's delicious.
Then he
And I
says,
make it-
secondly, a lot of these guys are only in college because it is compulsory. If the 3-year rule disappeared, a lot of these guys would come out of high school. Now, normally I would agree with that, but to Ross's point,
the NIL money
and the fact that they can enjoy themselves in college in a different way, I really think it's changing the game a lot. There's going to be a lot of people who just don't want to come out. All right, now let's jump to.
I wouldn't. I would stay in college.
I wouldn't either.
I would, if I'm making $5-10 million a year and playing college football.
To me, the NIL money is not necessarily what's ruining college football. It's the use of the transfer portal. Now.
The transfer portal. It's
both,
awful.
Kasey. It's both.
And if you look at the
reason there is a transfer portal is because
the transfer portal is now like free agency, because this college will say, well, we can get you this much in NIL money if you come here. Like
it's a disaster.
I think there should be some sort of compensation to this school when one of their players leaves.
100%. There needs to be something to even this
because
out.
if a coach breaks his contract to go to another program,
I mean, guys, look what happened during the bowl game season. Look at the bowl season. I mean, all the teams that weren't playing for the national championship
had like 6 or 7 guys sitting out. Yeah,
every team was like, all their good players were either transferring or going pro.
I mean, Chris Atwater can answer this. Did I see that 9 Alabama players entered the transfer portal after
9 times?
After the game on.
Why would he transfer? If you're maybe they're backups, because if you're starting in Alabama, I mean, it's kind of like that Gabriel quarterback for Oklahoma. Why would you leave Oklahoma and go to Oregon to play football? Seriously. I mean, you're playing in Oklahoma, which I think.
Well, Oregon is affiliated with Nike, so there is some. Like, Oregon might not.
I guess, but then the quarterback for UCLA
Nebraska,
to go there.
Why would you go to Nebraska?
I don't know. Nebraska just got the number one.
The Ohio State quarterback just left and went to Syracuse.
It's very confusing. I mean, even when we watched the NCAA tournament in basketball, the transfer portal had messed up everything. I was like, "What? This guy's on this team? What is happening here?"
It's horrible, Dan. They ruin college sports. It's not. People don't develop on that team anymore. They develop on a subpar team like San Diego, like a University of San Diego. Then they transfer to Gonzaga. It's like
it's really sad actually, because it was one of the special things about college. Well, we're off on a total rant here, but
I know, but it's just
I'm with you. I'm 100% with you.
So let's talk dynasty and drafting next season, or this season actually. Well, this
all right.
year.
So Ross, you said Caleb Williams is a head case. So if you were taking a quarterback, you needed one quarterback, and let's say you weren't going to trade back, you're not taking Caleb Williams.
No, I've heard anything but bad things about him off the field. His attitude, his not getting he's not a team player. I mean, I've heard a lot of bad things about him, which to me is already a red flag. So I would say, I like this Penix for Washington. I mean, he's broke all these passing records. I know he's older, Kasey. I know he's older, which which means he's less.
And
I get it.
I live in Big Ten country, so I watched him blow out
at
2
Indiana?
ACLs while he was at Indiana, and I worry about a guy who's coming into the league with already 2 ACLs.
I know, but at least he got it out of the way.
Yeah, you could argue that it actually helped.
Get out of the way. And now he's stronger and better. Now. He's Lee Majors now.
He's bionic.
Right. He's bionic. So I like Penix. I think I like the kid from North Carolina too, Case.
That's Drake May. Drake May will be a top 2 or 3
I like
pick.
Drake May. I like him.
Go to the second round in the real draft.
He just couldn't win the big games in college, which kind of scares me.
Well, his decision making was bad at times.
Penix to me is the number one quarterback coming back. I love Bo Nix. I just don't know. I like to see him play in a different setting than Oregon. We'll see how good he is.
Well, he was terrible at Auburn.
I know he was.
One of my rules of thumb is are they playing in a pro style offense? Is it going to be able to translate? I worry that Drake May playing in North Carolina just doesn't. He's not going to have learned the way other quarterbacks have. I mean, I may be scarred by Tim Couch coming out of Kentucky. I know it's not exactly the same thing, but you hear about these players being drafted based on their physical characteristics. But if they haven't played in that pro style offense, I don't know. I'm going to shy away from them. So I like Penix. What about Jaden Daniels out of LSU?
I like the kid. I mean,
I saw him play for the past 6 years. I mean, he's a very physical player. He's very
toolsy. He's got, he's like
toolsy.
one of those.
I just don't know what kind of pro he'll be. I'm curious to see who drafts him. It's just for him. It has to be a good setting. He needs good weapons around him to do well.
And he doesn't run that much. Is that right?
He ran a lot.
He
He's
he did
1,000 yards this year. I think he had 1,000, right, Kasey?
Yeah.
Yeah. He has rushing ability, but
Okay, he does. Yeah, I was just looking at
big
that.
plays, but he is prone to kind of bonehead stuff, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, I'd rather have Penix, who has more. It just has more mileage, basically. In college
I think
football.
Penix is actually going to be the best quarterback in this class. Chris Atwater says, "I wouldn't go to college at all. I would just take the NFL paycheck." Interesting.
Why? No. Just go back to that statement and analyze it. Why would you? You can make more money in the NIL deal than your first rookie contract in the NFL. So why would you not go to college first?
Let's see.
At least
let's
get
see
your
what he
stock
says.
value up. At least get your stock up, and
Let's see
then
what
go.
he says. Now, speaking of the transfer portal, Chris confirms, yes, it was 9 players, but you only transfer because you are not good enough to play where you are. See Jamison Williams leaving Ohio State for Alabama. That's interesting. Imagine.
So are you
Jamison
saying
Williams
Ohio State's better than Alabama?
I think he is saying that.
Wow.
I think he admits it. Finally, he admits it.
This is
Chris,
recorded, right?
Yeah, Chris is he'll say what is. I think it's so hard in Dynasty though, because there are those quarterbacks that are so close together. It'll be really interesting to see what happens with Caleb Williams, because his stock has definitely fallen. I don't think he's the clear number one, and that's why I would go with Marvin Harrison Jr. I would certainly look to a guy who wants to trade back and trade up to get.
I don't know if Marvin Harrison Jr. is coming out.
If he doesn't come out, I guarantee you he's not going number one.
I mean, he's already promised $10 million to stay in school. So again, would I leave? No, I would stay in. I would be the big man on campus.
I'm totally with you, Ross.
I wouldn't. It's like I wouldn't want to play in the NFL quite yet. I'll play another year in college. Why not?
Okay.
I'll try to win a national championship.
Here's Chris Atwater's full admission. He admits that the Ohio State receivers are better than Alabama. He's not saying the whole team.
Do you think that's true historically? Because they've been good from both.
The star receiver for Alabama went to Calabasas High School. That's Barton. And my daughter actually knows the kid. Like
Rico Lewis is goes to McDevitt here. He is a receiver who's committed to Alabama for next year.
How good is he?
He's pretty darn good. He's 6'4", can run like the wind, and has a catch radius that looks like a 2-car garage.
All right.
See, I love watching those college kids when they're that young play. It's great.
Love it. Okay, now wait. I want to leave some time for us to talk about actual NFL playoff picks.
Okay, so
playoffs. Yeah,
playoffs, because I'd rather, I don't want to get to the Super Bowl and say which of these two teams is going to win. It's not very fun. What I want to do instead is look right now.
Okay.
Look at that playoff pool and tell me who's your Super Bowl matchup and who's the winner.
Ravens versus 49ers. 49ers.
Oh my good boy. Oh, Kasey, did you spend hours at the
look at the pool? That's who the pool is.
Oh my God, Kasey.
They're the two best teams in the NFL.
And I know that's not what he's wishing for.
No, I don't want that. I want it to be like the Browns against the Rams.
I'll take listen. This is my bet.
I want it to be the Lions and the Dolphins. I think that would be a fun.
What if it was Lions Browns?
The
first Super Bowl for somebody.
I will have to. I'm taking Houston, and I'll take the Rams.
Houston's not even in yet, are they? They're
not
locked.
Taking him.
Hey, he's
I like it.
Taking Houston and the Lambs.
So I think
the Rams are 6-1 in the last 7 since the bye week, and their only loss was overtime to the Ravens.
Yep, I'm taking the Lambs and Houston.
That was a really good pick, Kasey, because when I look at it, Ravens over 49ers, that's just
that's like a chalk. I mean, anybody.
I don't like it.
It's both the number one seeds.
You're asking me who I think. Like you're not asking me.
Make it a lot of
the box.
By the way, I have to say,
listen to Atwater.
All right, Chris Atwater says
the Saints have no
chance.
They're
against Miami, like the Lions Browns though. So
I do like the Lions Browns. I'm rooting for that now too.
I'm going to root for Lions. You know what? I shouldn't root for Lions Browns. It's going to curse the Browns. I'll. That's why I should root. I should root for Ravens, 49ers, and I should truly root for it, because then it won't happen.
It won't happen.
We'll see. But my actual pick is I do think the Ravens are going to win, and I don't like that but I do think it's
I think the Bills are going to beat the Ravens. How about that?
I think it could be. I think the only team that can challenge in the NFC the 49ers is maybe Dallas, even though San Francisco's already blown out Dallas.
Yeah, but
if
I'm going to
gets
pick the
hot-
Ravens over Dallas, which would be the worst Super Bowl in history for me. It's going to happen. Now,
Okay.
Chris Atwater says, obviously, the Saints pick is a joke. Tampa Bay would have to lose to Carolina this week. They would
Hey,
have a hard time
Carolina
making
has
it.
an Alabama quarterback.
That's true.
Keep faith.
All right, guys, we're going to sign off for today. We will be back here next Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. We're going to have one more week of talking football. Soon, we're going to turn the page to baseball.
Woohoo!
It's getting close. It's Casey's
I know.
favorite
It is.
time when we start
Chris
moving to
Sale
baseball.
just signed for additional 2 years for the Braves. I've just read,
That was
which
to
is
restructure
huge.
to get out of the $40 million a year the
Well,
Braves didn't want to pay him in his current contract.
Right. That's the way
I
it's
think
done.
Boston pays a lot of that, but yeah.
There's always people on payroll. We know that the best job in America is ex-football coach.
Yeah, I said Frank Reich is my favorite coach
He's
ever. He gets
just making so
$50,000 a day to sit on his butt.
That's right. All right, guys, we're going to sign off. We will be here next week. Looking forward to seeing you then.